Hello, Mr. Poilievre. Stephanie Levitz, the Globe and Mail. Nice to see you. Your party voted in favor of Bill C-5, and as I think you know, Mr. Carney has a meeting this week with First Nations leadership to go over their concerns with the bill. I wonder if you could articulate why you see the legislation as being respectful of Indigenous rights. You voted for it. And what, if anything, you think Mr. Carney ought to be doing to forestall, excuse me, the potential for protests or court challenges as this bill begins to be implemented.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Let me first say that C-5's far from a solution. It's better than nothing, but not by much. The logic, there's a very big flawed logic in the approach the Liberals are taking. First of all, they've put in terrible laws that block development. C-69, the anti-development law, C-48, the ban on offshore shipping, the emissions cap, the industrial carbon tax. And then they've acknowledged that those laws are terrible, so they've passed another law to go around those terrible laws for select projects. This may allow some projects to go ahead. Some is better than none, and that's why we agreed to vote for it. We wanted the possibility that something, anything, could get built in this country, which is not possible under the bad laws the Liberals put in place to begin with. So I don't want anybody to think for a second that we think C-5 is a solution. The real solution is to get rid of C-69, C-48, the emissions cap, the industrial carbon tax, and many more of these other terrible Liberal policies. Then and only then will the hundreds or even thousands of projects that need to go ahead have a free market in which to do so. Now here we are in this strange situation where the Prime Minister has to select these projects to go ahead. Obviously, the best way forward is to win First Nations buy-in. And what I would say is the best way to do that is to ensure that First Peoples benefit from the projects. We had a policy during the election campaign, which I continue to support, which allow businesses to divert a share of their federal corporate tax to the local First Nations on whose lands the projects go ahead. This would be own source revenue for First Nations to build schools, hospitals, clean drinking water systems, job training, you name it. And they wouldn't have to go back to Ottawa to ask for money from federal bureaucrats. It would come directly to them. So I think that is one example of how we can make these projects beneficial to First Peoples. And they want to participate. If you talk to many of the First Nations people across the country, they desperately want to prosper from our incredible resources, and we should work with them to do it. I also think the Prime Minister should set up shovel-ready zones in consultation with First Nations governments that have pre-permits so that projects can go ahead and that First Nations people can be part of them from the very start. I think our First Nations people can be the richest in the entire world. That should be our goal. And only with good policy and hard work can that happen. Thank you. I just want to repeat that last part in English, because I forgot to mention it. You think of someone like Ellis Ross, who was the first counselor, the chief counselor of the Haisla First Nation. He helped put together the LNG Canada deal in northwest British Columbia that has a terminus at Kitimat, $40 billion. This is the biggest project in the history of Canada, ever. There's never been a $40 billion project. And that doesn't include the pipeline component, which is another $5 or $10 billion. And his people will benefit for many generations as a result of that. Let's take that model, let's spread it right across the country, and let's make our First Nations and all Canadians have the chance to become the most prosperous on earth.
Thank you. That concludes today's press conference.
The comment you made in French about compromise, would you be willing to repeat that in English?
Sure,
you made
yes.
a comment about the need for compromise around C-5. Could you just say that in English?
You want it in English?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, of course, everybody's going to have to compromise. Whenever you do a big project where you got workers, investors, governments, local communities, and First Nations, everyone's going to have to make some compromises in order to get things done. And that's how big projects get completed, no matter what.